Imagine you are Captain Sado Yasuo of the Imperial Japanese Navy. You are a veteran. You have spent your life mastering the art of naval warfare. You know how to dodge bombs from high-altitude planes. You know how to turn your destroyer into the path of a torpedo to present the smallest possible target. You believe you are prepared for anything. Then, on the horizon, you see them. American bombers, but they aren't flying high. They aren't diving. They are coming in low, impossibly low. So low, their propellers are churning the surface of the sea. Your gunners swing their cannons down, but they can't depress them far enough. It's a blind spot. Then you see it. A small, black object detaches from the bomber. It doesn't plummet. It hits the water, and it bounces. Like a skipping stone from hell, it hurtles directly towards your ship. In that moment, all your training becomes useless. All your experience means nothing. All you have is 25 seconds, the longest 25 seconds of your life. 25 seconds to watch death itself bounce across the waves. In March 1943, the Japanese Empire made a critical move. They assembled a massive convoy in the Bismarck Sea, 8 destroyers escorting 8 transports, carrying 6,900 elite soldiers. These troops were veterans, desperately needed to stop the Allied advance in New Guinea. The convoy commander, Admiral Kimura Masatomi, was cautious but confident. His fleet had trained for every known method of attack. They were, they believed, an unsinkable lifeline. They had no idea they were sailing into a trap, one set not in a war room, but in a dusty aircraft hangar in Australia. The architect of this trap was a man named Pappy Gunn. He wasn't a general or a strategist. He was a grizzled, 6th-grade dropout mechanic with a burning desire for revenge. The Japanese invasion of the Philippines had cost him everything: his home, his business, and his family, who were now prisoners in an internment camp. The army gave him a commission, but what they got was a mad scientist obsessed with finding new ways to kill Japanese ships. Gunn looked at the standard B-25 Mitchell bomber and saw untapped potential. He and his crew performed what could only be described as Frankenstein-style surgery on the aircraft. They ripped out the bombardier's compartment, tore out unnecessary equipment, and packed the nose with as many scavenged .50 caliber machine guns as they could fit. Some of his creations bristled with up to 18 forward-firing guns, turning a medium bomber into a flying shotgun with the firepower of 3 fighter planes. But the guns were only half of his insane idea. He taught his pilots a new, terrifying tactic, perfected in secret against a wrecked ship: skip bombing. The physics were brutally simple. Fly at 250 miles per hour, just 50 feet above the water, and release a 500-pound bomb with a 5-second delay fuse. The bomb would skip across the water, bypass torpedo nets, and slam into the ship's hull at the waterline, where armor was thinnest. The fuse would ensure it exploded inside the ship. Pappy Gunn hadn't just modified a plane, he had turned the ocean itself into a weapon. On March 3, 1943, the trap was sprung. The coordinated attack began. First came Australian bow fighters sweeping in at mast height, their cannons raking the decks of the Japanese ships. The Japanese captains, thinking these were torpedo bombers, made a fatal mistake. They turned their ship's bow onto present smaller targets. This was exactly what the Allies wanted. Then came Pappy Gunn's monsters. The B-25s roared in so low their prop wash created wakes on the sea. As they approached, their noses erupted in a torrent of fire. The converging streams of tracers created a solid cone of death that swept across the destroyers. Anti-aircraft gunners were shredded before they could even aim their weapons. Sailors were cut down as .50 caliber rounds punched through steel plating as if it were paper. The decks were cleared in seconds, leaving the ships completely defenseless. And then came the bombs. Pilots released them at 300 yards. A black sphere would drop, hit the water, leap high into the air, skip again, and then impact. A dull thud against the hull. For the sailors inside, there were 4 seconds of terrifying silence. Then, the world tore itself apart. The contained explosion, magnified by the water outside, blew the ship's hull outwards, creating holes large enough to drive a truck through. The nightmare repeated across the convoy. The Kembu Maru, a transport loaded with aviation fuel, was hit next. The bomb skipped twice and struck its fuel tanks. The ship didn't sink, it vaporized. A pillar of fire rose 500 feet into the air, the heat washing over nearby ships like an open furnace door. Admiral Kimura watched from his flagship as his fleet disintegrated. His defensive doctrines were useless. His ships were trapped in a 3-dimensional kill box. While his gunners tried fruitlessly to hit the B-25s at sea level, B-17s were dropping bombs from 7,000 feet above. Japanese Zero fighters dove to intercept the bombers, only to find themselves flying directly into their own convoy's anti-aircraft fire. The American tactics had turned Japan's defenses against themselves. By noon, the battle was a massacre. All 8 transports and 4 of the escorting destroyers were sinking or sunk. Admiral Kimura, wounded by machine gun fire on his own bridge, was forced to transfer to another ship as his flagship sank beneath him. He was watching thousands of his emperor's best troops drown in a sea of oil and fire, dying without ever firing a shot. The Battle of the Bismarck Sea was over. In one afternoon, American ingenuity had achieved what months of naval attrition could not. The Japanese never again attempted to send a major reinforcement convoy within range of Allied air power in the region. The supply line to New Guinea was severed permanently. It was a victory won not by a massive fleet, but by a rogue mechanic's desperate innovations. A victory defined by a terrifying new form of warfare. And for the hundreds of Japanese sailors who witnessed it, it would forever be remembered as the 25-second nightmare. The moment they realized courage was meaningless, and that their enemy had invented a weapon that gave them just enough time to watch and to understand that they were already dead.